Thanks for allowing me to ask this final question. It really was a brilliant question. We heard a lot today about inclusion and diversity and how women have overcome so many obstacles in politics. My name is Renelle White, by the way. I'm a member of the Silver Lining Foundation, which is a foundation or organization that deals with LGBTI youth and anti-bullying, in particular in schools and even at home as well. So my question really is, what is the CPA's position on LGBTI inclusion, and how or what measures or steps are being taken through legislation, socially, culturally, to really accommodate or really put an end or a stop to LGBTI discrimination in particular? There's so much talk about women in politics, and Osborne spoke about how women deserve that right to stand up for themselves and be included, and how they really are being so much more visible. And young LGBTI persons are being so much more visible today, not only in Trinidad but across the world. And how are you all actually going to address the inclusion and the diversity that the Commonwealth does stand for by accommodating the LGBTI community, their differences, and really adding to that heightened sense of gender equality? Because gender equality isn't only for men and women, but also for other marginal groups in society, such as the LGBTI community, who have been discriminated against because of their sexual orientation as well as their gender expression. So just, some thoughts on your position and ways moving forward to really include and add to that sort of diversity and equality.
Maybe I'll just start by saying, when I spoke this morning around values, the CPA, being a Commonwealth-based organisation, subscribes to the Commonwealth Charter. And the Charter specifically says we are implacably opposed to all forms of discrimination, whether rooted in gender, race, colour, creed, political belief, or other grounds. And the other grounds has always been taken to include any forms of discrimination towards the LGBTI community. So the principal position is as set out in the Charter, that we are an organisation of values. We operate on the basis of non-discrimination. But of course we live in the real world, and that's really where I think your question is driving. Because we do know that across the Commonwealth there are a number of countries which have legislation on their books which go back to the colonial period, which prescribe homosexual activity and other forms of activity contrary to the LGBTIQ community. And there are groups which are working within the Commonwealth, for example, the Human Dignity Trust, which has just had a very successful legal attempt in Botswana to reverse the legislation in those countries and to ensure that those pieces of legislation are struck down because they're no longer in conformity with the constitutional arrangements. So Botswana is a very big success story. There have been a number of other countries. Belize is another country in this region which has successfully struck down colonial legislation which prescribed homosexual conduct. So there are attempts in the Commonwealth community and the legal fraternity to take legal steps to deal with this. But of course we also know there are Commonwealth countries who, far from actually dormant on these pieces of legislation, are in fact aggressively increasing their legislation to impose even harsher sentences or even the death penalty in certain circumstances. And I think those are the situations where Commonwealth heads of government have had to sit up and say, well, we recognise in a Commonwealth of uneven development that there are different stages of development in our organisation, and we need to support everyone to reach the aspirations set out in the Charter through education, through capacity building, through other forms of training. But where you're going backwards or regressing, steps need to be taken and to be called out. So it is a mixed pattern. I wouldn't say it's a negative situation. I think, as I said, there are some concrete attempts to ensure that the legislation is reversed. But I think also bearing in mind that we are at different stages of our development in the Commonwealth, and many of these issues of discrimination, not just on LGBTI, but on race and on gender, are deeply rooted in our communities, and using the law alone is not going to change attitudes. It actually will take training and education and generational change for the younger generations to change their attitudes towards all of this. So we mustn't be complacent, we must actually step up and try and adhere and aspire to our values. But we have to take time in order to do the education, do the groundwork to achieve those changes.
Thank you. I just want to quickly add that one of the things that the CPA is working really, really hard on is improving the quality, encouraging, supporting members in improving the quality of the legislators so that the quality of legislation that comes out is improved. That, Ronald, nice to see you again, by the way, is a long process, yes? And just as ESG says, legislation is not enough. For me, the work that I do to my parliament and with the groups that I work with, through the CPA and outside, is trying to get people to recognize and get over this notion of difference as being equivalent to unequal or wrong. As a Caribbean person, as a woman, in the Caribbean, I say, learn to mind your own business. Quite frankly, what happens in somebody's bedroom is none of your business, as long as it's not rape or child abuse. And if you get past that, we're one step ahead. The other thing is, when the slavery was abolished, for example, they didn't do it because they suddenly realized that black people were nice looking and all that and smart. They did it because it was economic. So, if that's what it requires, you need the work done. Who cares what you look like, how you dress, who you sleep with if you do the good work? Yeah? We have rules, we have churches that have what we call sins and all that. We have laws that we must not violate. And if we're not doing any of those, then does it matter who does the work? So when you come into the workplace, you come into, you're a writer, you are a technician, you're a coder, you're a nurse, you're a teacher, you're a politician. If you're a good teacher, if you're a good nurse, if you're an excellent coder, I really don't care what you do outside of my work, as long as it's not illegal. You won't get locked up and then come search my place of work, yeah? And that comes back to legislation. It comes back to religion. We're very religious people in the Caribbean in all kinds of ways when it has to do with somebody else. And I come from Montserrat, I'm from the Caribbean, I can say this, it's no different in Trinidad than it is in Montserrat. We're good at judging, where we're judging other people. And some of us do the same things. We go to church on Sunday and do the same things that we challenge people about. In Montserrat, we're having the conversation because we have the United Kingdom making positions on us to do with things like same-sex marriage and so on. And I hear people jump up and talk, and I say, wait a minute, let me ask you a question. We have laws that describe child abuse and child sexual abuse as illegal and wrong. I don't hear you jump up in your pulpit on Sunday morning and talk about it, and I can count the men in your place who do that. Yeah? But mention same-sex marriage, you get all bent out of shape. My suggestion is that we just keep educating. There really is nothing else. We just keep educating. People are people. Our values of inclusion and difference. Yesterday at the conference, they opened with a dance. 3 Indian girls, 3 African girls who sang a song, the Ganges meets the Nile. So Trinidad is already a country where there's all this difference, and you're working together. It's been a process, I know, and it's going to continue to be a process. You're working together to get what's good about people, regardless of where they come from, what they look like, who they marry, who they love. Yeah? And if we are concerned, let me just end on these 2 things. If we are concerned about the quality of families, well, just look at the regular divorce rate and tell me. One of my gay friends said to me, he really doesn't understand what's all this jumping about his gay friends wanting to get married, because the record for heterosexual people being married is not so good. So he doesn't even understand what the big deal is about. You get where I'm coming from? It is the quality of your person that matters most. It's the quality of your person. And everybody in here has a gay person in your family. What you do? You disown your family? You throw away your family? Your sister, your brother, your cousin, your uncle? Which leads to the other point. Not gay people, LGBTQ people are no more likely to rape you or your children than straight men and women. Straight men in particular, if you want to talk facts, all right? So the issue that you have to hide your children and protect them from these people. The people in schools who cause the most trouble to young girls in schools are not gay men. Are the male teachers, the heterosexual male teachers. The parliamentarians who harass us, women in parliament, are not the gay ones. Are the straight men, married, children and grandchildren too, some of them. So pull this all together. What we need to do is learn to look at what people bring. What people bring. Yeah? Bad people are bad people, straight, gay, or whatever. We don't want bad people, but you don't describe someone, dismiss someone, deny someone as bad just because they're different from you. Does that make sense? Thank you.